Good morning, and welcome to WOWD-LP Takoma Park, 94.3 FM. I'm Pam Holland, and you've tuned in to Listen In Show. And I'm very excited today because today I'm going to be chatting with Marika Partridge, the heart and soul of the radio, the founder of the radio. Now, I've heard Marika refer to the radio as her baby, and her baby is now growing up, and she's letting it have its own legs. Would you like to say a little bit more about that, Marika?
Well, good morning.
How does that feel?
It feels really, really good. And let me just change a little volume for myself here so I can hear better. It felt like on the day that we launched, I was saying on that day that it's like I had been carrying this baby, gestating this baby for 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. And then it's like, get out, go to college. And it's like, I gave your room away. You're not coming home again. There's not a meal here for you. You are on your own. It was like, it was a baby that I carried. I felt like it was a toting job for a while. And then now it is really like on its little legs running, and it feels fantastic.
It does.
Oh,
I love fantastic in every way.
Oh, spring to my step.
Yep. No sadness, no missing the baby?
Oh, my gosh. Oh, no. It's alive. This is a live creature. This radio station is alive. It's on its own.
Right.
I'm going to challenge its independence by going on a 10-day road trip to see my family in northern Vermont, and I'm leaving tomorrow morning at this time.
Right.
So I'll be away, and the radio station will be fine.
Right. And special things will be happening while Marika is away. Desiree and Tatiana will be taking over her show for 2 weeks.
On the Thursday evenings.
On Thursday evenings. And what time is that again?
7 to 9.
7 to 9. And that show is called M&M.
For no good reason, M&M. Well, it was Marika and Mike at the beginning, and I just thought it could be fun.
And now it's Marika and Magic.
Yeah. It's
Marika and Magic.
I also do Monday mornings and surround Afropop with my program Morning Brew. I like being on the radio. It takes quite a bit of prep time to do it well. I was liking every other Thursday. Every Thursday's, it's a lot to keep up with if you want to do a good job. But I'm so grateful for the people who want to fill in. So I'm kind of looking. I want to find somebody whose musical taste is like mine and get a partner again. But for now, I'm enjoying having that time and lending it out to people who, I don't hear enough of Desiree and Tatiana.
Right.
And they're my main team. Desiree Bayonet is the program director or director of training for us, and Tatiana Safronova is our station manager. Both are half-time. We're paying them a little bit because it's just a lot of administrative work going into this. Right.
And if you missed our show last time, I interviewed Desiree Bayonet, and you can find that at listeninshow.org. So I want to talk a little bit more with Marika about what listening in has meant to her throughout her life. And the first question I had for Marika was, what does listening in mean to you? What does that mean?
Well, I think it probably to me means quieting down and sensing whether I have a gut reaction to something, Is my body telling me that doesn't feel good? Why do that? Let's not do that. It's a way of change. It's a course changer.
Right.
The way that you feel it. You go, I don't have the energy for that.
Right.
Why not?
Right. And something I observed recently was that once I listened in that way, listened to my body, and I know the right answer, sometimes I still feel like I need to justify it in words, and I think that's something that perhaps I don't need to do. Have you moved past that, having to then say why?
No, I have not moved past that.
So, listeners, that could be your gentle challenge for this week, to notice that when you know what's right for you, you already know. Do you then feel the need to clarify, and maybe justify is too strong a word, but to clarify for yourself or for others around you in words why you made that choice? And we might question whether that part is necessary because we have so little time in our lives. Why not just listen to the body, listen to the gut, and go straight for it?
Yeah.
That's a challenge I'd like to do. So Marika shared with me that as a child, she was taught to listen in to her own inner wisdom by her parents. But you want to say a little bit more about that?
My mother was really kind of a magical person. My parents were you use some word about yourself as recovering. My parents were recovering deep Southerners. Mm-hmm. My father, a fifth-generation Northern Florida man, and my mother, like a fifth-generation Alabama girl from not even a big town in Alabama. They met each other, and they just fled the South. We never even went back to visit. So they had, they were bohemians in a way. They neither one of their families could believe that they gave up the sort of cushy Southern life that the rest of them chose to stick with. Mm-hmm. And my parents they shocked their siblings and parents by buying a tract of land up in Vermont, like 100 acres, and just like with a shack on it, deciding that's where they were going to hang out whenever possible. Uh-huh. My dad was in the Navy, so we were travelers.
You were travelers, but you spent quite a bit of time there was it a farm?
It was a big piece of land with a shack on it. My brother lives there now. It's a farm now. Now it's a farm with a barn and But so because we were travelers, I was born in Rhode Island. I was the fourth of four. And then my life little pattern went like Rhode Island, the Philippines, from the Philippines, D.C., Arlington, Virginia, to Iceland. Then we went back to Rhode Island, and then we went to Taiwan. And my dad retired in Taiwan, and we took a year and got ourselves home overland from China, basically.
Wow.
So it was a crazy life. And so we tuned in because, that was a homeschooling year, and we were travelers all over the world that year. We drove across Afghanistan and Iran, et cetera, et cetera. We spent 6 months in East Africa, but it's a time of observing. That's what listening in is also. It's just like noticing. We were a taping family because, as I said, I was fourth of four, so there were the two at home that were grown up. They're back in the States, and we were sending them. So we were documenting our trip and noticing and saying things about what we were noticing. And, I think that was a really good training, probably what took me into radio.
Wow, what a fantastic opportunity, and it'll be fun to listen to that audio again. Have you listened to it recently?
I was, I went on to be in radio, and I came here to D.C. from Alaska, and I came here to work at National Public Radio. So in my job at NPR, I heard on my own program, All Things Considered, I heard a call to the nation. It sounded something like this. If you have audio from the past century, this is 1999, right. End of the century. If you have any audio from this past century, that shoebox in your attic kind of thing. And I'm like, uh-oh. Oh, no, I do. I have the shoebox in the attic kind of thing. I even had the original reel-to-reel tape recorder. I still have the Ewer that was my dad's. So these were little reel-to-reel tapes. And I produced a meaty piece, actually, about my trip called The Grand Tour. And it was part of Lost and Found Sound, which was a highly funded, NEA-funded look at the last century in audio that people like me had in our attics, basically.
And do you know if that's still available?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Great. So we can put links to that on the website. So say a little bit more. Marika shared with me that she learned Transcendental Meditation at the age of 15.
Yes, well, I was at boarding school because I told you it was a very rural place that my parents ended up. So when we returned from that trip, they moved to the house in Vermont, and my brother and I both had to go to boarding school because there was not an accredited high school in that part of Vermont at that time. So I went to Northfield. My brother went to Vermont Academy, and it was I guess I graduated from Northfield in 72, and Transcendental Meditation was sweeping the country in 1970. It came to my school, my friends and I mean, it was inexpensive. It's not inexpensive anymore.
Right.
It's hundreds of dollars now to take the training. But as I recall, it was like $30 or something. We all did it. We all took it. We just loved it. It was such a nice escape from it was a neat way to go deep twice a day. Now, I live on a block on Tulip Avenue, which is, we got a lot of meditators, TM people on the block. It's fascinating.
Great.
And I have gotten back into it and left it and back into it and left
Right.
it several times. Recently, I thought it would be a great idea for my high-functioning autistic son to do TM. So within the last, I guess 5 years ago, my husband, my son, and it was called a refresher for me. I didn't have to pay up. I just could refresh. So anyway, they paid up and we all did it together. And I mean, no regrets. It's not that I stuck with it. I have not been able to keep the pattern going, but I could, maybe you're inspiring me. Possibly I will, maybe that'll be my gentle challenge. Try meditating a couple of times a week.
Well, I think it's something that's with you, available. It's always available to you. And that's a great thing to have in your toolbox, right?
Mm-hmm. I believe that.
And those of you like myself who have not studied Transcendental Meditation, there are still many, many tools that you can have and that you can find very readily now on the Internet. And some of them we've already put on the website. When I interviewed Eva Janata, we listed some mindfulness resources. So if that's something that appeals to you, just check out listenin.org. I loved Marika's answer to what tools or practices support you in listening in. This is in addition to Transcendental Meditation. And her answer, if I might share what you wrote, was closed mouth and open ears. So please share a little bit more about that.
Well, let's see. I think the older we get, the easier it is to just have your opinion. Your opinion has been formed. It is just, it's a knee-jerk opinion actually at that point. If you can, and I have 3 kids, if you can just don't say anything, just stop talking. That really helped when, my kids are grown now. They're 25, 22, and 21. But when the girls especially were in their teenage years and they'd have shocking things actually to reveal about what the party scene is out there or where, what happened last night when they you went to a party at the University of Maryland, you guys, you're too young to do that. Don't go to those. But if you can not do that, don't. If you don't do that with your kids, especially, or anyone for that matter, that's when, I learned so much by keeping my mouth closed during those teenage years. Because then if I just looked inviting, wow, you guys are literally hiding behind a fence. Oh, my gosh. That must have been, and then it's empathetic listening. Were you scared? That sounds terrifying. And then they start saying, well, and then she ran, and then the police got her. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. And I'm like, inside I'm going, ah. I'm trying to save it up and run upstairs and call somebody and go, oh, my goodness. So if you can, I became a better mother and a more empathetic listener in general through that exercise of just don't react. Mm-hmm. Don't react. Try to hear what the other person's. It's this empathetic listening. I've studied nonviolent communication, and I did a lot of this work in preparation for the super social exercise of starting a community radio station. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. A lot of people come at you, me, for example. A lot of people come at me with a lot of ideas, with a lot of you should, you need to, you should, you must, you go, here's what you ought to do, here's... I mean, I'm kind of allergic to should at this point. Yes. I just can't take it. And I guess that word really gets me at my gut. I can't take it on. So our position here is if you have a good idea for radio, you have to bring it to us. We're ill-equipped to be reaching out and sustaining somebody else's idea for them out there. So I think I got off track from your question.
No, you're absolutely on track, and this is actually something that has come up in some of the other interviews. That word should, when you said it, my stomach clenched. It's a word that I try not to be too didactic, but I correct people when they use that word. because it's a word that I have banished from my vocabulary. And what I would suggest that we say instead is could.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to invite people to notice, and I may give you more than one gentle challenge today, but because this is such a prevalent theme, not only throughout the show but in our culture, I invite you to notice not just when you tell other people that they should, but when you tell yourself you should. That is perhaps even more powerful. And try replacing that with could. I should get up earlier. I should meditate. I should this, that, and the other. And I've heard people say, don't should on yourself.
Yeah.
So think about that. What if you said, instead of I should meditate, I could meditate?
It's a nice possibility.
How much gentler does that sound?
A lot.
Yeah. So, Marika, I'd love to know what gets in the way of you listening in.
I'd say it's really kind of a bombardment of life. It's really an explosion. There's just so much going on. I mean, here for me at this time, in this place, we're training. Talk about should. People are like, you should have 2 turntables. Like, Well, we're just stepping. It's almost like going upstairs. And as a mother, I think developmentally, there's like these places where you shelf off and you're a baby and you're kind of then you coast for a while at that level. We're coasting at a baby level, and there's a lot that needs to be done. This is carpentry, and we have a second turntable, to use that example. But in this small space, we don't have the tabletop for it yet, and our engineer is a volunteer. We just have to chill on some of the things that feel like they're emergencies. So I'd say that I can't listen in very well, honestly, with just the bombardment of reality. This is a really busy little radio station.
And I just want to acknowledge all that is possible at this radio station. Obviously, in any aspect of our lives, we are always going to be improving. We're always going to be growing. But look at what is here.
Oh, I just love it so much.
Look at what is here.
Yeah.
I mean, when was the launch?
July 16th.
The launch, folks, was July 16th.
About 3 months ago, just now.
Yeah. And, we have all kinds of programming, more variety of music than I've ever heard on any station, honest to God. And there's, 2 CD players, and there is a turntable, and you can plug your computer in. And we have Megaseg with all kinds of music on it. There is so much that is happening here.
Oh, it's so good.
And let's just take a moment to celebrate
Hallelujah.
that. Let's just celebrate that.
I think we're very proud. We're very proud. Yeah.
Wowdy.
We've got good attention on us.
If you're just tuning in, we're at WOWD-LP, Takoma Park, 94.3. And this is Listen In Show. And we'll be with you here until 8:30. And my name is Pam Holland, and I'm here with Marika Partridge, the founder of WOWD. Now, do you have any, we've sort of talked about this a little bit, but maybe some new ones have come up. What other tools and practices or resources might you dredge up from your toolbox to share with our listeners?
Well, I have a mentor. It's always a good idea to have a mentor. I'm so excited about she would like to be called my lifelong learning partner.
All right.
I call her my mentor. Her name is Peggy Taylor. And she works, she's a creator. She's an entrepreneur working with youth in the Seattle and, throughout, up and down the West Coast. She's affected a lot of youth with a creativity camp for teenagers. She especially works with 14 to 18. So one of my good friends is a good friend of Peggy's, and that good friend of mine told me when your daughters get to be 14, they have to come to the Power of Hope camp. So the Power of Hope camp was a transformative experience for our whole family. And then I went on and took a much deeper training with Peggy, who figured out this like art-inspired creativity. It's creativity. It's like getting out of your box, learning to listen to other people, going for the kernel of information that's down in there, like really safe space for telling your story. You begin to tell your story in new ways if you are given crayons and paper and you're given a prompt to like draw the feeling of happiness from an earlier time of happiness, and you're like pushing colors all over and they're exploding and you're like, this is my happy painting, and identifying with that deep creativity. So that was my Heart of Facilitation training. It was 5 long weekends over 5 months that I went to the West Coast. I decided to commit to this stuff. So 3 in Seattle and 2 in Portland weekends, about a year and a half before the station went on the air. And I just learned to facilitate a group with, I believe in playing games. I'm a game player. And that would be like a card game or a board game, but also a creativity game, like going around the circle and just making up a story, or just out of the box. Think quick. The first thing, best thing. Make up a story. Don't say I don't sing. Don't say I don't dance. Don't say I don't know how to write poetry. We wrote these beautiful poems. You just write some metaphor down. Like, I remember one woman near me is like, I live on a ragged highway. It was just like beautiful, these kind of beautiful things. We just tore our papers up and we picked our favorite line. We made beautiful poems. So I believe that, like, breaking into your creativity is just going to make it so much more interesting. And so in that whole process of breaking into my creativity, we did a lot of racial, very deep, very difficult, sort of racial awareness training, and this was a very mixed group of people, so it was a very charged weekend, that one. And then we also got deeply in through the racial lens. We got really into empathetic listening. We studied Marshall Rosenberg's NBC very deeply. I love Marshall Rosenberg, the late lovely Marshall Rosenberg, who codified the nonviolent communication NVC. I would recommend his book. I would recommend Peggy's book called Catch the Fire, which is exercises. It's a how-to. It's a how to lead a group. It is my Bible, really, for radio meetings and stuff. It's like, how will we start the meeting? We want people to be thinking about finding a new partner, so let's have them mill and go into pairs, and then like get them into fours. And so these are little exercises that, and there's not a good word for these. Peggy might call them activities. I'm like, that just doesn't cut it.
Yeah, and some people call them icebreakers, but
there's a word yet to come.
We can invite our audience to share with us words that they think might capture the spirit of creatively bringing people together is part of what you're talking about.
And you break their little that thing I talked about at the beginning, where you've got your opinions made. That goes out the window with these exercises, because you actually find yourself on new territory. It's shifting, and you're no longer in that place where you can just say, this is how I feel about that. That's the end of that subject.
Right. And I have been to a number of radio meetings, and they're very exciting.
The one thing, and I'm going to, this is not a could or should, I really must go into my pile of papers and find this New Yorker page. It's just a page in a New Yorker from years ago that I went, wow, and I tore it out. And the piece is called Open Season. And it has to do with that idea that as you age, you just settle in. And, this guy was working at a lab here at NIH, as I recall, and a new person came into the lab who was just a short-termer, but he'd come in one day, had his hair one way, he's eating Japanese food, he's eating Italian food, he gets a motorcycle, he comes by bicycle, everything. There's no pattern to this new person in this guy's life. And he's like, how is he doing it? He's staying open, whereas in this world of these researchers, it's like, my wife and I like Italian food, and we go to the movies on Friday nights, and then on Sunday we have this pattern established, and this newcomer comes in, and it just stays with me. I like open season, and my season remains open. I'm ready to engage. I love teenagers, and that will keep you open.
Right, and new possibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you were speaking earlier about listening to your children or your young adults now, and having to sort of zip your mouth and ask open-ended questions like, what did that feel like? Something that came to me when you were speaking of that was you also get more information that way, parents out there. You get a lot more information if you say, ooh, and who else was there, and what did that feel like, as opposed to, I can't believe you did that.
Well, here's one. Okay, if you're going to hear a good one. You got up early for this. It was one of those where my daughter said she had gone to a party over at the University of Maryland, and she was saying, this 12:30 curfew that I have is bogus, Mom, and I want a later curfew. This is not working for me. And I was like, not really saying much, just going, yeah, I hear you, it's not working I'm sorry. And she was so frustrated at this point. She goes, I was leaving the party last night. It's like I gotta leave me and get a curfew. This guy says to me, hey, wait, don't go so fast. Do you want to try some heroin? Seriously, that was hard to keep my mouth closed. And she says back to him, I can't. I have a 12:30 curfew and I have to leave. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was really a wake-up call. I did keep my mouth closed, but I had no idea actually that there was heroin at the University of Maryland parties, and the curfew stayed 12:30
for sure.
But I learned so much in not speaking at that moment. It's like, whoa, it's really a bad place to go to party when you're 16. That's not a good idea.
Yeah.
So just the more you can keep your mouth closed, the more you're going to learn, and it's important information.
And that gives you an opportunity while you're keeping your mouth closed to open your heart and to breathe and to listen in and think about what it is you would like to say in this moment.
It all turned out well with the kids, by the way.
Yeah.
It's good to. I believe in sticking. I don't change my mind when I've set the curfew. Actually, we didn't. But it's been a real experience.
Well, especially when
experience.
You found out that the curfew kept her from getting taking heroin, right?
Right.
That would be a big incentive to keep with the curfew, I believe. So I wanted to let you know that next time I'll be speaking with Kate Stewart, the mayor of Takoma Park. And unfortunately, I don't know the actual date, but it'll be the first Wednesday of November.
I believe that is the 2nd.
And is that the day after Election Day?
No, the election is, the election is Thursday's the 10th and 9th. The 2nd is a Wednesday. It's the Wednesday before the election.
Okay. So I had a quote I wanted to share with you from Dr. Seuss. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Marika.